Hello. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing five of my favorite books ever. These I think they're all. I'm just sort of making this up off the cuff because I sort of want it to be like organic. But I think they're all going to be fantasy books. So you could treat this as like a fantasy book recommendation tier list, if you will. And yes, I am wearing a onesie. It's freezing. It's a cool onesie. What are you going to do? Okay. So and these are in no order, by the way, because I don't have an order. I didn't think about this very much. So one of my favorite books, The Blade itself. I've done a review for it on this channel. It's just a beautiful book. Some of the best character work that I've ever seen. And not just best character work, but it's also the best delivery of that character work. It's really like a really well done book. And it sort of breaks a bunch of tropes, and not in the like, you know how everyone says George R. R. Martin breaks tropes, and it's like this big, circle jerk. It's not like that, but it actually does break tropes. Like, it literally will spend time breaking tropes. So it's a really good book. And it has probably my favorite ever book character in it, Logan Ninefingers. So, but yeah, that definitely makes my top five. Anything else of significance about it? It's very grimdark. So if that's what you're into, then check it out. If you don't like grimdark, look, I'm still going to recommend it because it's one of my favorite books. But I would say that if you're not into like darker subject matter, just maybe be aware of what you're getting into. But yeah, because it just has some of those most nuanced characters. There's no such thing in this book as a nice character. Do you know what I mean? There's nobody who you're just like, that's a good guy. But yeah, if you want more information about it, you can check out the other review of it I have on my channel. Okay, next one of my favorite books, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Not exactly a controversial take of this one. Fantastic book. It has, again, one of my favorite characters in it, Dalinar. Of course, Dalinar doesn't really get too far explored until one of the later books, but he's a beast character. It's got a really cool plot, and it's also one cool thing about Brandon Sanderson books is it's part of, this massive big plot, Because you know how there's, if you don't know, in Brandon Sanderson's books, each series is a series, obviously like any other, but they're all part of or most of them are part of a Cosmere, which is this big overarching series. So you kind of get that cool idea of you're just sort of exploring, you're exploring like, a section of a much bigger and cooler, or not necessarily, but just a much bigger universe, so you're sort of engaged in that way. And I don't know, that book also has one of my favorite scenes in it, just of any book. I won't mention it because it's going to be kind of spoilery. What I'm going to do later on is I'm going to do a video about like some of my favorite scenes in individual books, and then I'll talk about it there because that one will have a spoiler review. But yeah, it's just a really cool book, really cool character work. It's kind of slow to begin with, but not like, it's not painful. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're invested, you're having a good time, but it is a little bit slow. So I would say that if you want to check it out, my advice to you would be to just give it some time. And it won't take forever. Just give it a little while. Just give it a few pages. Just to settle in, because it does have quite a steep learning curve. You got to sort of figure out what the hell's going on, and this is what's cool about it. Brandon Sanderson has changed so many different things, like the plant life's not even the same, and he'll start mentioning stuff, and you're like, what are you talking about, bro? And you're like, oh, it's some cool fantasy shit. So yeah, that's a really good book. Continuing with the uncontroversial takes here on favorite books, next up is Lord of the Rings. One of my favorite books ever since I was like 9. It's a really cool book. Or 3 books, 1 book. Yeah, what are you gonna do? But yeah, no, it's really cool. I don't know how much I really need to say about Lord of the Rings. I have a feeling you've all seen. Oh, you've probably all seen the movies. If you haven't read the book, I would just say that some of the differences are it's a lot slower. Obviously, it's going to be slow. So it's over 1,000 pages. At least my copy is. And my copy has some of the tiniest text ever. I don't even wear glasses, but I dug out some old reading glasses when I was reading it again recently. So yeah, just be aware that once again, it's a little bit of a slower paced book, and there's lots of songs. They do a little bit of singing in the movies. I think they definitely do some in The Hobbit. But my advice would be, if you're reading Lord of the Rings, would be, you can do what I did on my second reading, where I read the first sentence of a song and the last sentence of a song, just to have an idea of what was going on in the song. But yeah, Tolkien, you know what I mean, he spent a lot of time working on his languages and stuff, so he liked to use them, but for you, you're just your average fantasy reader, it can be a bit much, Okay, what's next on my tier list of favorite books? I guess I would chuck out another Brandon Sanderson here, The Final Empire. I think this book is really, really cool. It's got a fantastic protagonist, strong female protagonist, if that's something that interests you. Fantastic, like, a mentor figure, because sometimes mentor figures can be a bit dry and dusty, the whole idea is like, oh, they're old and wise, and then, and that's kind of boring. They're like, oh, cool, bro. But in this case, Kelsier, who is the mentor figure, very slight spoiler, it's like a chapter in, is really, really cool. He's fantastic. There's a cool plot. What I also like, about Mistborn, or The Final Empire, is it's part of Mistborn, which is a 3-part series. But if you really want to, you could just read The Final Empire as a standalone book. It's a complete story in of itself. So it's not like you have to read the rest of the series if you don't want to. And I do have my problems with the rest of the series, so you could just treat The Final Empire as a standalone book if you don't want to keep reading. Has a really, really cool villain as well, and I don't know if it's a big spoiler to say, but the villain is, you know, the Emperor, I guess. He's called the Lord Ruler in the book. But it's a really cool and interesting villain, very well developed. Brandon Sanderson's constantly feeding you little tidbits, and you just have to be like, no, Brandon, I want to know more. And he's like, no, you must read like 600 pages. I've actually just as we speak. Oh, well, not as we speak, obviously, as you can see, I'm talking to you, but I am rereading it at the moment, and I'm enjoying it a lot. Because I listened to it the first time, and now I'm reading it physically. And I gotta say, both have been fantastic. But Narrate is really good for the audiobook, so if audiobooks are your thing, then I would strongly recommend that. And what should I pick for my final book? You know, I might actually just take The Hobbit, which, I mean, I've already had Lord of the Rings on here, but I am a bit of a Tolkien fan, and I would say that The Hobbit is a lot more digestible. So, you know, maybe you, and that's why I can really recommend Hobbit. I honestly don't actually recommend Lord of the Rings to people too much. Because, like, my dad, he's a dude who reads a lot, but he didn't even finish Lord of the Rings. It was too long for him. Whereas The Hobbit is a lot more digestible. The Hobbit you can really get into. And, you know, it's quite short. It's like 300 pages. Don't be fooled by the fact that I made 9 hours of movies. The Hobbit it's a very fast read. There's lots of stuff going on. It's like an adventure. It's very easy to sense your pacing. You know, you're like, well, the Lonely Mountain's there, and we're here, and we just got 100 meters closer, so there's a very distinct sense of progression in The Hobbit, which I really like, and it makes it come off the page a lot quicker. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Lord of the Rings, it can sometimes be like, oh, cool, Tom Bombadil, you know, how long are we going to be here? So yeah, I would say that The Hobbit is probably a really good pick. And if you like The Hobbit and you think you could dig deeper, then you can go to Lord of the Rings. But yeah, so I'd say The Hobbit is probably number 5 of my favorite books. So thanks very much for watching, and have a great day.